Welcome to the Loopy Pro video manual. This is a series of videos getting you up and running with Loopy Pro as fast as possible. In this video, we're going to take a look at the controls for the clips. Now, if you've had a look at the mixer video, you'll know that you can actually access the mixer by pressing this little button in the corner here. We just press it, up comes the mixer, and that's all fine. But the mixer controls the inputs and the volume and the pan of the loops, but by color. Today, what we're looking at is actually controlling the individual loops themselves. So the first thing we're going to have a look at is we're going to have a look at pan and volume per loop. Now to do this, there's two ways. One is actually pressing the mixer button, and then you will see a donut here at the top. If you press this, they all spin round. Now the great thing about this is we can actually see the mixer and we can see the loops at the same time. To get out of there, we press the donut again and they spin back to the performance loops actually when you're recording. However, if you don't have the mixer open, what you can do is you can hold down the mixer button and this will do the same thing without bringing the mixer up. Now whilst it's in this mode, you can do two things. We can actually control the volume, so we can just drag our finger up and down. And the great thing is, as you do this, if you drag your finger up and down and then drag your finger to the side, you can get much more granular control with the controls that come out. They even come out really, really big. We drag it over to this side. If we go really, really small, we can go right up there. We can go put it back. A double tap will actually put it back to 0 dB. Additionally, you can actually drag side to side. And again, if we bring this out, we can get much more granular control. And a double tap will actually bring that back right to the center. This kind of control is really useful. For example, we have a track here that I'm going to play now, and the blue ones here, I've just kind of created a little bit of a high end kind of noise, and one of them's a little bit louder than the other. I'd like one to be a little bit reduced. Let's pan them. So the great thing is you can do this live in the moment as you're creating your loops, and then just hold this down and adjust it accordingly. Additionally, you could set your loops up before you actually hit record. So we can actually set the pink ones up here, adjust the volume, make sure they're right. Let's put this all the way over to one side and put this all the way over to the other side. It will stay like that. And as you record in, it will bring the audio in, but then it will play back in the way you've actually panned it or set the volume. A little bit of high-pitched singing there. So if you swipe up on any loop, it will give you more information. And I've discussed this in a previous video, but it's just worth noting again because, of course, this is all about the controls on the loops themselves. This is another option where you can play around with the pitch and the balance. Let's go over to the pink one and swipe up, and you can see the balance is all the way over to the right because we set it like that, and then the volume is minus 6.3 dB. If I hold this down, it's exactly what it says there. If I double tap this, I'll put it all back to 0, and if we swipe up again, you can see it's changed. It's actually mirroring what's being set. But this one is a really, really interesting one. Maybe you've created a loop and you think, I've actually needed 4 bars, not 2 bars. We can multiply it. So we can actually do a multiplication of this. So if I play this now, you can see that this one is actually double the length of this one. If I swipe it up, I can say divide, and we'll go back to the same length. I can even say divide again. So we can really manipulate the loop just by swiping up. The other nice thing about this is you've got an intro and outro, so you can say play region before loop before starting the playback, so that can happen as well. And you can play around the speed, you can play around with a couple of playback and record settings that we've discussed in other videos. Now the next swipe actually has two different ways of doing it. Swiping inside the donut and swiping outside the donut. What I mean by this is actually swiping from the center inside the donut a little bit. It'll actually give you the option for clear or re-record. The option as well is if you swipe all the way out then what it does is it instantly clears it. This is a fast clear, and it's really useful if you've gone, I made a mistake, I just want to get rid of it. You can swipe further than the boundary of the loop, and that'll instantly clear it. If you make a mistake, of course, you've always got your undo here, and you can just press undo at the top. But if you swipe it really small, whether it's the left, the right, or down, then that will actually ask you if you want to clear it or want to re-record it. However, swiping beyond the boundary will clear it instantly. This is great. You can give it a massive flick and it's gone. Now, a quick tip for you, you can actually use more than one finger to clear a loop at the same time. So let's clear both of these two purple loops together. I'm just going to actually use 2 fingers to swipe through. So if I swipe both of them out at the same time, they're both cleared. There is actually no limit with that. It depends on how many fingers you can do at the same time. But what you can do is you can swipe them all out, and you can see that one didn't quite make it. So it's asking if you want to re-record or clear, but there's actually no limit. But of course, if you do make a massive mistake like that, there's always the undo in the top left-hand corner. You can undo each step that we've done. If you found the contents of this video useful, then give it a thumbs up. That helps me, it helps the channel, and it helps send this video out to more people who are liking Loopy Pro. The other thing I want to show you today is actually being able to control the volume of this loop without having to go into any menu. So if you draw a curve around the actual loop, follow the loop around, and keep your finger held, this will actually spin the donut round, and you've then got volume control. So if I do this now, and then I can adjust the volume accordingly, and just move it around there. As soon as I let go, it spins back again. This is a great instant control, but you must draw it inside the loop, and then it knows that you're wanting volume control. If you do something like that and move outside the boundary, it thinks that you're flicking it to clear it. So you have to be very careful with that. You can actually draw your finger inside the loop any direction, clockwise or anti-clockwise, it doesn't matter. So if I do it clockwise, or if I do it anti-clockwise, it still comes up. Just be aware that if you do it anti-clockwise, your finger's in the opposite place where the volume control is. If you do it clockwise, then your finger's going to be pretty much on it straight away, which I think is easy to do and control, certainly in a live performance moment. Of course, we went over things like recording, overdubbing in a previous video, but the last thing I want to show is merging. Now, we did show this, but the other thing you can do is you can hold down and then drag that over. Can you see the way that's done that? I need to hold it down for a second. If you do it the way you're doing a clear and just swipe it down, it thinks you're clearing it, but you have to hold it down for a second and then drag it down. And you can see it's now on my finger. I can move it to any place I need to. As soon as I let go, it's moved position. If I drag it and move it across over to a different one and let go, that will then sum the volume up. So I've just undone that because I just want to show you something. If I actually go over to the volumes, this one is minus 13 dB, this one's minus 2 dB. I'm actually just going to put these two and pan them across. If I then merge them, the volume and the pan information is retained. So now if you were to play this, and if I then hold this down again, you can see that that information's been retained on that loop. So if I was to then bring this up and move this across, and we play this now. Bum, 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 bum. Bum, 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 bum. So if you drag a loop over, you're dragging the audio over from one loop to another, but the individual pan and volume controls are actually on the donut. They're not on the loop itself. So if you pan a load of things over and then merge them, it's just merging it, but it's going to keep that information there, not that information. Just be aware of that if you're merging loops. To learn more about Loopy Pro, go to loopypro.com and have a look at this playlist. This is all the videos we've done for the Loopy Pro video manual so far.